For the NJCRC. I thank you all for joining us today for our second full partnership meeting of the year. We're grateful for your participation in the collaborative and for making the time today on this beautiful sunny day for our biannual check-in. We remind you that this meeting is going to be recorded. If somebody could start that recording now, that would be great.
It is.
Awesome, thank you. Any logistical questions during the meeting can be sent directly to me in the chat. We expect to have time for questions for our speakers. At that, when you have any, please put them in the chat or raise your hand, and when the time comes, we'll invite you to come off mute to ask your question. In the interims, we're going to ask that you remain kindly muted so we can minimize disruptions and stay on track with time. And again, any issues can be directed to myself or either of the two managing directors, Tom and Amanda. We do ask that you enter your name and affiliation in the chat just to help us keep track of who's here. And with that, I will hand it off to Tom.
Okay, so again, as Laura said, thank you all for coming. And, we're really happy to have your participation because we are a completely volunteer group. And so the NJCRC is a professional network that was established to foster sustainable and resilient coastal communities and ecosystems through generating informed action. And that's been our goal since we were established back in, Martha, I'm going to say 2016-ish. Yeah. And we do this through advancing science to inform policy and enable community decision-making. So we really want to bring the best available information to our agency representatives and to our communities so that they can really become more resilient to climate hazards. So thanks again for being here, and I'm going to hand it off to Amanda, I believe.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to run us through the agenda. We could change the slide. So welcome, thanks for being here. And to kick us off, today's meeting objectives, we're going to share updates about collaborative activities, future actions and opportunities for partner engagement. We're going to gain perspectives from our state and federal leaders who are on the call today and going to give us an update on the latest in New Jersey and discussing the federal landscape. We'll hear updates from New Jersey DEP, the NJCRC work groups, and our partners. And there's also an opportunity at the end of today's session to engage in an optional virtual networking session. And so that will run towards the end, roughly around 3:40 when we wrap up. And if you move to the next slide, I can introduce what that looks like. So the virtual networking session that we have planned, we heard from all of you recently in a survey how much networking means to you. And unfortunately, we were unable to meet in person, but we still wanted to network virtually and offer this to the partnership. So the first breakout group will be a partner meet and greet with Coastal Resilience Trivia. That will be with me and Lisa. The second breakout group will be on sponsorship opportunities led by Terry Doss and Nick Brown. And then the third breakout group will be ways to get involved with work groups led by Laura and Tom. So if you're interested in staying on with us for the last half of the session, join us for virtual networking. So that's our agenda for today. We'll wrap up round 4, and I will pass it off to the chair's welcome by Martha.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the spring meeting of the New Jersey CRC. On behalf of Liz Semple, who is on vacation, and Lisa Aller-Mueller, who is also joining us on this call, we want to thank you. Lisa and I are relatively newer chairs, and Liz does send her greetings also. So I don't want to hold us up anymore. I thank the managing directors for their great introduction, and with that, I guess I'll introduce Nick Angarone if he would like to come on camera.
I think I'm on camera. Can everybody see and hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Thanks, Nick.
All right. Thanks, Martha. Thanks, everybody. It's good to be here again. Happy to see folks who I don't normally get to talk to. So I'm Nick Angarone. I'm New Jersey's Chief Resilience Officer. I'm New Jersey's Coastal Manager. I am also the manager of the Office of Climate Resilience at DEP. In my role as Chief Resilience Officer, I'm also the Vice Chair of New Jersey's Interagency Council on Climate Resilience, which, for those of you who aren't aware of it, is a body of 26 executive branch departments and agencies tasked with coordinating state-level policy around climate resilience. Excuse me. Today, I'm going to give a brief overview of some of my office's work to support community and climate resilience in the state. There's three things that I hope you'll take away from this conversation today. So one, I want you to understand some of the work we're doing. It's important. It's helping our communities, and I'm really proud of that work. We are doing what my commissioner likes to call the unsexy planning work that is critical to identifying the right projects in the right places, and importantly, co-developed with the community. And you'll see that there's no lack of impactful resilience actions that come out of these processes. There is, as none of you are surprised to hear, a lack of funding to implement these activities. And finally, it's working. We're seeing success, and I will argue that we need to double down on those efforts. Go ahead to the next slide. So the main way our office supports local resilience planning is through our Resilient NJ program. We launched Resilient NJ after Hurricane Sandy. It has since grown to encompass several different initiatives, most of which are federally funded through programs like the HUD CDB GDR, NOAA, and NOAA CZM efforts. We offer, through Resilient NJ, we offer comprehensive regional resilience planning assistance, as well as targeted municipal planning assistance. And we also develop and update online no-cost tools and resources for self-led planning and resilience action. The unifying goal across all of these different initiatives is to support local governments in understanding and assessing their climate vulnerabilities, engaging their communities around solutions, and developing a community-led action plan to reduce their risk. You can find more information on individual plans and projects and access the online tools and resources at resilient.nj.gov. Go ahead. So our intent with Resilient NJ, right, is to produce plans that don't just sit on shelves. We want them to actually be implemented. Right, I'm a planner. I think planning is important. I think to some extent it is fun, but that is not the purpose of these efforts, right? It's to develop resilience action plans that identify specific projects for specific locations in the hope that communities can then develop comprehensive and competitive applications for federal funding to design and implement them, right? On your screen here is just one example that came from our Resilient Raritan River and Bay Communities project. This is the Nose Creek Restoration and Redevelopment project, and it's an example of a green-gray project with resilience, restoration, and economic development value. Nose Creek is a tidal inlet in Carteret that was once a much more extensive waterway. The creek and surrounding wetlands were filled to enable the urban development of the borough. Today, the culverted creek is a major pathway for coastal flooding, and the surrounding watershed is low-lying, leading to frequent ponding and flooding from heavy rain events, right, and particularly at high tide, right, an issue that we're all more and more familiar with. Right, and with climate change, the risk of flooding in this area is expected to increase. So the resilience strategies at Nose Creek combine, right, coastal flood barriers, resilient redevelopment, multi-benefit stormwater storage on publicly owned land, right? So it not only reduces flood risk to existing residents, community facilities, and important commercial assets, but also enhances recreational amenities. Increases multimodal connectivity and provides economic development opportunities for this small watershed. Go ahead. So just for whomever's controlling the slides, note that there are multiple phases to this slide, right? So, and here is another example from our Resilient LBI plan, Taylor Park in Beach Haven, right? So this potential project proposes the greening of Taylor Park, and you can start going through some of those slides, right? And includes permeable parking and rain gardens to reduce stormwater runoff, a road diet for Taylor Avenue, right? Living shorelines for wave attenuation, habitat restoration, connected stormwater storage, right? And ultimately converting the park into a resilience park, right? Not dissimilar from those which you might be familiar with, have been implemented up in Hoboken, for example. Go ahead. So far, we've had pretty good success with getting these plans turned into action, right? Resilient NJ communities have benefited from over, at this point, $26.5 million in federal funding for implementation of actions identified in their plans, right? Again, these were, we went through the planning process, identified some of these plans. The local governments still frequently with DEP support, applied to federal grant programs and were successful. Over $21 million of that 26.5 came from FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities programs, or BRIC. But as I think most of us know, right, in April, FEMA announced that the BRIC program is now canceled, or it's their intent to cancel. It's not particularly clear. Nevertheless, the expectation is that the funding for this year's awards are going to be reallocated. The state and local governments had developed 35 applications for this year's funding round that are no longer viable. What's going to happen with the BRIC grants that were already awarded is a bit complicated. We're still trying to understand exactly how it will play out. But what we do expect is that pending awards that have not started work yet are canceled, including $61 million in projects in New Jersey. But there's some remaining funds, perhaps up to $387 million in New Jersey that may still be in limbo. And this is just a really good example of, right, has federal funding for resilience becomes increasingly scarce, we're going to need to think creatively about how we move necessary resilience projects in our state to avoid significant losses in the future. Go ahead. All right, and one way we'll need to do that, right, importantly, is in coordination and cooperation with our partners, including those of you in the CRC. We are currently leveraging the collaborative network that we've built to implement the $72 million Building a Climate Ready NJ initiative. This initiative is supported by an award from NOAA's Climate Resilience Regional Challenge, which was a one-time national resilience competition, which was funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. Really, really proud of this award and the work with many of you and the partners in this collaborative. We were one of 19 awards of about 900 nationally. So, you know, something that we should continue to pat ourselves on the back for as we move into implementation of what is a 5-year award. The award, again, builds on the foundation that we've built in New Jersey in collaboration with many of you. It has a particular focus on assisting disadvantaged and overburdened communities across 16 of New Jersey's coastal counties. I'll just be very quick here. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of projects and activities, but it is based on 4 primary pillars, right? And so that is, we continue to support the planning and kind of development of data and tools for our communities. We will build on that work and the work that we've already done to establish a pipeline of resilience projects, right? And so we know through much of our planning work, right, we produce amazing plans, but we struggle to kind of move things forward, and we've not had kind of the capacity or the structures to do that. And one of the primary goals of this initiative is to establish that resilience pipeline and to provide technical assistance to our communities to move those projects forward. There are multiple actual construction implementation projects in this award, including coastal marsh restoration and development of a waterfront park, and the construction of neighborhood scale stormwater management projects in 3 of our major cities. So significant efforts in and of themselves, but there's also a significant aspect of this, which is again in coordination and led by many on this call, kind of engagement, education, right? I'm getting the acronym all mixed up, the words, but it's NJ Educate. So education, climate awareness, training and engagement. I think I'm sure I'm skipping over a letter there, but right, there's a lot of effort to kind of bring the tools and information and to our communities, to the folks who need to understand this as a basis to make kind of informed decisions, but also kind of broader education to New Jersey. So again, this is a huge undertaking. It'll be running through 2029. Assuming that the funding remains in place from the feds. And I think, we'll have a massive impact on the work that we do in New Jersey. Let's go to the next slide. I'd be remiss not to also talk about the Blue Acres program, which is also primarily resourced by federal funds. Right, as the state faces increasing risk of flooding and mounting insurance costs, the Blue Acres program offers an opportunity for homeowners to voluntarily sell their property to the state and move to higher and drier ground. Right, the flood-prone properties that we acquire through the Blue Acres program are restored to a natural state, and again add value as flood attenuation as well as kind of community assets. Right, so the benefits here are threefold. Right, so homeowners that have been dealing with persistent flooding, right, near constant repairs, rising insurance costs, now have an opportunity and the resources to move to a safer area. Again, that home is demolished, the property is returned to its natural state, right? So there's no new property or people that are put at further risk, right? Ending that disaster rebuild cycle. And that restored property then acts as flood storage, reducing flood risk of nearby properties as well. Go to the next slide. And so here's a few actual examples, some photos of some of our Blue Acres properties. All of these are photos from the Watson Crampton neighborhood in Woodbridge. So again, after Blue Acres acquires a property, the state demolishes all structures on that property, including driveways, fences, and it belongs to the state in perpetuity. It's deed restricted for use as open space for passive recreation, natural flood storage, or wetland habitat as example, right? So no residential or commercial uses will occur on the site once the state takes ownership. Right, and too often these sites just end up as mowed lawn or not mowed lawn, right? But that's a significant missed opportunity for these communities, right? Blue Acres sites have been used as nature trails, as native tree nurseries, and as habitat to support local wildlife. There is also the opportunity to restore these and kind of enhance that flood attenuation for those communities. Blue Acres has acquired in its history since 1995 1,200 properties or thereabouts. We're coming up on 1,200. And so while it's a critically important program and has significant impacts, it is a relatively small program, right? And is not the solution to all of our vulnerabilities. I will also note that we do get some level of state funding for Blue Acres, right through the kind of the open space bond or constitutionally dedicated funding. And with I'll simply note that with state funds, we are able to move very quickly for a state program, right? And we will often see that we can kind of go through the full acquisition process in approximately 9 months. Whereas using federal funds, well, I'll just say we are coming up on 4 years after the impacts of the remnants of Tropical Storm Ida, and we still do not have full approvals from our federal partners for acquisition of some homes with that funding. It takes a significant amount of time. And so again, that the use of state funds, which are a relatively small portion of this funding for Blue Acres, is significantly important. Go ahead to the next slide. So to do almost all of the work that I've talked about today, we rely almost wholly on federal funding. We rely heavily on some of the federal grant programs that you see here, right, which are annual, one-off, and post-disaster funding for some of our most critical resilience programs, not the least of which are Blue Acres and Resilient NJ, which I've talked about in some detail here. Every funding source that you see and some of the projects that we've talked about is likely threatened at the federal level at this point. And not just those that we've talked about today, right? Virtually every resilience activity in New Jersey is done with federal funds. And should that funding go away or be revoked, it'll leave a massive, massive funding gap for resilience activity in New Jersey. Go ahead to the next one. So what I'll say is kind of what's worse, right? It's not just the federal funding going away, it's that the vast majority of that funding for our work has come through federal disaster funding, right? So, and if you're following the news, right, you know that even that funding might be at risk. But regardless of changes in federal policy, right, we have to ask ourselves, right, is that how we really want to operate? Do we want to wait until after there's a disaster, after there's death and destruction, or should we be more proactive and make New Jersey more resilient to climate impacts before they result in a disaster? New Jersey is one of a shrinking number of states on the East Coast that does not provide regular funding to support the actions that we need to make our communities, our ecological systems, and our economy resilient to climate change. And so my conclusion is that we need a stable source of state funding. And as we wrestle with how we fund our work, we should also get creative with the work itself, right? How can we shape our policies, our programs, our communities, our collaborative actions to get to the kinds of transformational solutions that New Jersey desperately needs? Go ahead, the last one. So I'll just end on this slide. And so you can reference kind of this exhaustive but still not comprehensive list of our ongoing resilience efforts. You can find direct links for each of these bullets by scanning that QR code. And I'm happy to leave this up for a little bit. But at this point, I was asked to also kind of have a conversation with you all about, you know, I've given my perspective on kind of what we think, you know, New Jersey needs, but have the conversation about how the collaborative and you as partners can work together to coordinate to respond to our ever-growing need for resilience, investment, and action. And so I have some thoughts, right? So, you know, we've been, you know, working closely with the collaborative since its inception. And it has a significant amount of value in the work that it does. I'm going to perhaps look a little bit beyond that work and say that the expertise and the diversity of expertise and folks that are represented on the collaborative is very hearing kind of that diverse input is really important to us, to the department, and to me, on the broader statewide resilience activity, and kind of vice versa. Every time we have one of these meetings, or or intervening meetings, right, I'm bringing issues to the group to discuss, and that's critically important to us. I'd like, one of the things that I would very much like the collaborative to be, is that anybody who is interested in resilience work, I want to send to the collaborative. We, we're state government. We recognize that not everybody loves us. I'm at DEP in the state government, so we recognize not everybody loves us. And so, the collaborative, and kind of you all as a group of experts here, I think, right, that conversation can frequently be easier and perhaps more productive with some of those folks. And I also, right, want the state to recognize, the New Jersey writ large, not state government, to recognize the collaborative as the experts on resilience, right? When I get a reporter who has a question, I want to point them to the collaborative. When municipalities have a question about some of the work, right, perhaps first approach the collaborative. When we need examples of good projects and good work that are ongoing, right, where to go to resources, right, the collaborative can point to various members, right? So we really want the collaborative to be that resource. And one, I think, final thought for me in thinking about, we've been having some kind of some internal conversations, some external conversations. I will somewhat think about it as disaster planning, in that what happens if all federal support, or the vast majority of federal support, goes away, kind of what we do. And nothing is free, but I do think, right, that some low-hanging fruit for us is kind of the broad communication, outreach, and engagement activities that are still desperately needed, but also kind of in the wheelhouse of many of the organizations represented in the collaborative. So I'm going to stop talking, take a drink of water, but again, I'm hoping to kind of we're hoping to for some feedback, and again, for perhaps this to be a conversation on some of that topic.
Nick, thank you. Certainly, this is a broader conversation than what we're going to cover here today. So, and I know the co-chairs and the managers have a conversation with you tomorrow to start to think about this holistically. I totally agree with everything you have to say. My concern is the chair is our bandwidth, so to speak. So we need to also collectively talk about the organization itself, since we are, as Tom put it before, we're all volunteering our time to be part of this very important work. So what I would ask right now, if there is anyone within the collaborative online who would like to make a comment or provide some perspective or put it into the chat, we have an opportunity to do that before we move on to the next, to Ben. Are you seeing anything, Laura? Comment was. You started this conversation. We will continue this conversation with you,
Yep.
Nick. Okay.
I'm always around, folks.
Hopefully. Keep you around.
For now. Thanks, guys.
Okay. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Ben Giovine of Senator Kim's office. I'm happy to see Ben again. Our paths keep crossing. They have been for the last 20 years. So I'm very excited to see him in this role for us in the state of New Jersey. So Ben, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Martha, for that really warm introduction. And yeah, it is incredible how many years we've known and worked with each other, and it's great to see many friendly faces here on the line. So my name is Ben Giovine. I'm with Senator Andy Kim's office, and I'm also joined by Marshall and Naveed, and they will kind of just speak a bit after me. So I am in the state office. We're down here in Barrington and in Jersey City. And I serve as a director of intergovernmental affairs. And it's something that the senator sort of created as I think he kind of felt that a lot of times organizations, regardless of whether they're nonprofit or government, having that a solid entry point into the office as it relates to our policy staff, as to our outreach. And frankly, we always find, with our local mayors or counties, there's always like just a weird thing that they're interacting with government. They don't know like where to go to, how to kind of like untwist certain things. So that's a lot of part of my role, as well as taking on a lot of the congressional directed spending and other opportunities that we try to get out to our towns and to our nonprofits. I know what we were discussing here today is navigating the federal landscape, which I don't think it's going to be any surprise to folks here on the line. It is quite an interesting landscape. We've been taking in a lot of concerns and feedback from various organizations. I can say that, I don't think there is any, regardless of what you do in government, whether it's in the environmental world, transportation world, resiliency, nonprofit. I mean, everyone has just been impacted in different ways, and it's been really, frankly, challenging for us as a Senate office to try to keep track of all of these different changes and what's happening out there. So the first thing I want to stress to you all is I put my email address in the chat. I believe Marshall and Naveed did as well. Please, feel free to reach out to us if you're, hearing things, seeing things that may, be impacting your organization or that you feel should be, kind of seen by our staff. We're not able to track every single grant dollar that is going out or program. I'll give an example. This happened just this morning. I was having a great meeting with one of our regional planning authorities, and we were just talking about surface transportation and fun stuff. And they said, hey, did you notice that in all of the new NOFOs, they have language now saying that every sub-grantee or grantee has to cooperate with ICE and they can't impede immigration actions. And I'm sitting there going, well, what does that really have to do with bridges and tunnels and what, safe streets to school? But the administration is inserting this into every NOFO, regardless of what it's relating to. And they, this particular planning authority is now seeing, frankly, a chilling effect from local partners that now no longer want to agree to these new grant terms. And so they're having, they're having concerns, and they're saying, we don't even know, there's certain towns and communities we would work with on safe streets to school, grants, and now they're no longer, kind of, they're concerned. So it's that type of feedback that we're able to get to our policy staff, and that's why Marshall and Naveed are going to speak to what's happening down in DC. But it's important for us to have that. So I certainly just want you all to feel empowered and encouraged to reach out to us so that we kind of have a sense of what's going on out there. Specifically, at least here in the state of New Jersey, our office has been engaged with Democracy Forward. They're a national organization that has been kind of briefing a lot of our offices and keeping us up to date on different legal challenges and things that are kind of happening out there. As we, heard from DEP, we're finding these large projects that are suddenly being rescinded, and sometimes there are, if New Jersey has a standing in it, Attorney General Platkin has been filing different suits and things like that, and it's a lot to keep track of. You'll have a judge maybe in New Hampshire do something, and it may impact cases here in New Jersey. And so we're trying to do our best to coordinate and communicate with the Attorney General's office and with Democracy Forward and other partners, so we could also kind of get good information out to folks as they call us about what's going on. And I would say that our grants team, for those that may have maybe worked with Lynette Whiteman or Amy Oliver on letters of support or different things like that, we are also trying to shift some of our focus on providing information to government organizations, NGOs, nonprofits on alternative ways to start looking for funding. And there may be foundation grants, that may be other things that are not necessarily federally connected. So we are going to be pushing out some information and working on some webinars and resources on that front as well. But you know, I know a big piece of what folks are concerned on here are the impact on NOAA, on EPA, on different research grants and resiliency. So I think you know the senator's background from when he was a congressman and now as a senator. Resiliency was something that he, you know, was very much laser focused on, having first represented Ocean County and still dealing with those impacts from Superstorm Sandy, seeing flooding in Burlington County where we would never, you know, normally be seeing flooding before, as well as some of the impacts of climate change that we're seeing along the Delaware, and trying to ensure that Army Corps and others are doing proper investments here into the state. So we're no stranger to this work, but you know, the landscape has obviously gotten a lot larger with us statewide. So please, you know, if you're not quite on our radar yet, or you haven't really met with our team, you know, I definitely encourage you to please reach out, and we'll be happy to, you know, set up some time to meet. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Naveed and Marshall. They're our go-to folks down in DC that can kind of give a good sense of the meat and potatoes of what's happening legislatively and with committees, and ways that we're trying to kind of hold the administration accountable for some of the landscape that we are dealing with.
Thanks, Ben. I'll start. Hi, everyone. Naveed here. I work for Senator Kim, actually on his Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee's subcommittee. So Senator Kim is the ranking member or the lead Democrat on the HISGAC subcommittee on disaster management, Washington, D.C. and census. So as part of that, we have jurisdiction over FEMA broadly, FEMA's disaster programs, most of FEMA's resilience programs. And so it's definitely something that we've been following closely, that the senator is concerned about from various different actions by this administration. I know Nick earlier talked about BRIC and some of the other resilience programs, and all of those things are things we're tracking. Senator Kim actually wrote to Secretary Noem when the cancellation of the BRIC program came out, asking her to reverse course, especially for these previously awarded grants, as communities were relying on those for projects that not only protect property, but can save lives when disasters strike. So that's something that he's continuing to push on. We've also been working with the Government Accountability Office, GAO. For those of you who don't know, GAO is sort of an auditing arm of Congress that we tasked to do reports to look at this decision and look at the justification behind it. The administration called the program ineffective and wasteful, and trying to audit, what does that mean? What reviews did they do to prove that? You know, all of these projects, as I'm sure you're aware, have to meet really rigorous standards, really rigorous benefit cost analyses. And so having some markers on there, making them prove what they're claiming when they are making these decisions. And I think we're really concerned about what this might do for other programs. The Safeguarding Tomorrow Revolving Loan Fund, which is a new program that New Jersey has gotten some funds for. What this means for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. As you all might have seen, we're seeing now for the first time in decades that disaster declarations are being approved without that mitigation money coming. And what does that do to a community's ability to be able to prepare for the next disaster? And frankly, just ends up putting the federal government in a worse spot too, as we have infrastructure in communities that are less resilient and more reliant on federal disaster aid in the future. So I think all of these things are things Senator Kim was really concerned about and watching. I think there's obviously been a lot of talk about FEMA, what that future looks like. The talk from the administration, I'll say, has shifted from terminating FEMA to terminating FEMA as it exists today. What that truly means, we don't know. We're watching what the FEMA Review Council, which was set up by the president, is going to do. We're expecting, I think, a report from them come November, and I think that'll be really telling to see where this review council is telling the administration to focus its efforts, and looking to that to see what Congress will do with that and whether or not we take those changes or decide on some other changes. I think we've been very forceful of the fact that FEMA is authorized by law, and so any big changes to FEMA must go through Congress. And we are continuing to push that with the administration and other nominees that are coming through our committee. And Ben talks about this, but definitely would encourage you all to keep us in the loop. If there's things happening on the ground, please let us know. Please let us know about projects for other resilience programs if you guys are running into problems with. We do a lot of the policy work up here, but you guys are the experts on the ground, and we really don't have a good sense of what's happening unless you tell us. So please, please feel free to keep that open line of communication. And it is incredibly valuable for us in doing our work, but also allows us to know what we should be advising the senator to push on as he's talking to the administration, as we're seeing bills come through. And there's no substitute for that. So really would encourage you to take us up on that. And with that, I will turn it over to Marshall.
Hi, everyone. Well, thanks, Naveed, and thanks, Ben. My name's Marshall. I cover, among other things, environment and interior policy for Senator Kim. I'm actually born and raised in Toms River, grew up on the Barnegat Bay. So really thank you all for the work that you're doing. As I just want to echo what Nick said earlier on, simply there isn't enough federal funding. So if anyone is familiar with the appropriation process, what some of us in the biz call fly-in season. Over the last couple months, we've been meeting with stakeholders across all sorts of policy areas. I see a few familiar faces here, just to hear about the programs that you all are relying on. And it's based on those kinds of conversations that we sign on to appropriation letters calling for robust funding for the Delaware River Basin Restoration Program or the Coastal Zone Management Program, Sea Grant, National Oceans, and the Coastal Security Fund, those kind of programs, at least for the environmental and interior aspects. Adding the senator's voice on to supporting those programs is much more needed now that I'm sure some of us have seen President Trump's FY26 budget proposal. Really some terrible things in that bill, but a lot of these letters have bipartisan support. So as both chambers, both parties within each chamber are negotiating on what Congress will fund these levels at, it's having more signatures on gives Democrats more weight when it comes to those negotiations. And a lot of that happens because we're hearing from you on the ground again, because you are relying on those kinds of programs. And again, lending our support for these programs helps allow the necessary funding to go to New Jersey so that we can continue to be a leader in coastal resilience with initiatives like how Nick mentioned the Building a Climate Ready New Jersey program or NJ Pact, those kinds of things. On the legislative side, we're on a total of 5 committees. So what I think is pretty cool for New Jersey is that when you take our 5 committee assignments, combine them with those that Senator Booker is on, New Jersey is really a force multiplier and can have a say in a lot of deliberations that are occurring on the Senate side. So like, for example, we're on our Commerce, Science, and Transportation committee. So we get to hold administration officials accountable for ensuring that funding for NOAA and infrastructure resilience projects are consistent when it comes to our work on the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, HELP. We can lean in on workforce development, making sure that there is that talent pipeline coming through. When it comes to banking, housing, and urban affairs, we can work on reauthorizing the National Flood Insurance Program or reauthorizing the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. So really are able to come at these, the challenges that we're all facing in New Jersey from a couple different angles and make those incremental steps, just given the realities that we're in. Just the final caveat being that obviously we're in the minority, so we're limited in the tools that we can use. But as we're going through this, Ben mentioned just helping us echo what is happening in New Jersey, bringing that to Washington, D.C., and then conversely, helping explain why decisions in Washington, whether it's related to the budget or the upcoming reconciliation, how that has a direct impact at home. So that's a very brief overview of kind of what we're doing both in the state and here in DC. Again, our emails are there, so would really encourage you all. We would welcome you all to reach out if you have any questions and how we can continue building relationships. But I'll stop there.
That's great. Thank you, Naveed, Marshall, and of course, Ben. Please take up their request to utilize their emails and keep them contacted. We heard the same thing from Senator Booker's office in that as much as they'd like to be everywhere all at once, they're not on the ground. So it's certainly important information that we can provide Senator Kim's office. So thank you for your time. Laura, I guess with that, I'll turn it over to you. You're muted.
I think she may be waiting for me. So,
Thanks, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah. So, again, thank you to Nick, Ben, Marshall, and Naveed for great updates. We really appreciate the time you take to meet with us and give us this great information for us to use and help us as well as you in the future. Now we're going to get into some of the collaborative kind of updates. The first one is our returning board members. So each year, the collaborative rotates about a third of its board members. And this is the first time we've done an election cycle. So this is a new kind of system for us. But the way it works is after our winter meeting, typically in January, we open up a call for nominations for the seats that are up for re-election. And then those nominations close 30 days before this meeting. So the nominations were closed in May 2nd this year. And I'm happy to inform everyone that 3 of the 4 seats we have returning board members. So Lindsay Massa, Charlene Kiley, Alyssa Cummings have all agreed to come back onto the board and continue to serve for us. So thank you very much for your continued support and volunteering to help the CRC grow. We had a 4th seat that was filled by Stan Hales of the Barnegat Bay Partnership. Stan just said he really would love to continue on, but didn't have the bandwidth to really contribute. So he stepped down and that seat will remain open until filled. So I want to congratulate the returning members. Again, thank you for your volunteer and all your efforts and support for the CRC. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Tom. I'm going to take us into the next section, which is just to give a welcome to all the new partners that we have acquired over the last 5-ish months. And then I'm going to tell you about some of the events that we've been doing that helped us find some of these new partners. So we want to give a little shout out to all of these new collaborative partners who all joined on at the general partner level. It was Kate Schneider Engineering with Paul Cates and Greg Schneider as the representatives, Kleinfelder with Kyle Johnson and James Killen representing, EcoAdapt Strategies with Rebecca Jones, PSNS, which is Jano Saban and Brian McPeak. Renova Environmental Company actually had been a resource associate, but they moved up as to a general partner with Jack Lennox as the representative. And the same post, NJ Post, the Society of Military Engineers, with Paulo Rodriguez, Heyman, and Ed Blainer, Sovereign Consulting, Jesse Buckner, Doug Janik, Cape May Point Arts and Science Center with Lara Crowshare, and Nora Morton also joined on as a general partner. She is, if you were at the conference or the coastal flooding workshop, she is that fabulous high school student who is going to be graduating in a month or so and moving on to her college career. But she wants to continue to be part of the collaborative. So we're excited to have her sign on as well. So just to thank you, if anybody from any of those organizations or anybody else would like to drop some more information in the chat, feel free. And then we have some partner updates at the end, which a few of these will be giving partner updates then as well. And then on to how we found some of these guys or convinced them that they wanted to be partners. We have been hard at work creating different opportunities for the collaborative and for our partners and for the greater coastal resilience community. We were very excited. It was a giant accomplishment for the NJCRC. We hosted our first solo workshop, the Coastal Flooding Technical Workshop, in March of this year. You can see a few pictures on the slide here. You can also, I'll put the link to the article that Carl Villacova wrote about the workshop into the chat. And from there, you can find all the links that are on this slide as well. But we had over 120 participants. They highlighted technical topics that we were not able to cover in our 2024 workshop. That was a goal of the workshops that we were choosing to focus on hosting this year. The Coastal Flooding Technical Workshop was the first. You'll hear more about the Ecological Restoration Workshop coming later in the year. And then we're working on a municipal focused workshop for later, which I will tell you about. This particular workshop, we were able to cap it with a poster session and a networking event. And as you can see, you can find the abstracts and speaker slides all on the event website if you want to learn some more and see some pictures. And we just want to give a shout out to our sponsors who helped us create this fabulous event and keep our registration fees down. So thank you to Stevens Institute of Technology who hosted the event, Forerunner, HDR, the Northeast Shore and Beach Preservation Association, which is part of the American Shore and Beach Preservation Association, all for contributing to the event. After that, we also were able to table at 2 events so far this year. And again, this is how we meet more people and more partners and help let them know all the great work that we're doing and incorporate them into the collaborative work as much as possible. So we tabled at the New Jersey Emergency Preparedness Association Conference and the Society of I'm going to mess it up again, even though I was trying not to. The Society of American Military Engineers Coastal Resilience Conference, both of which I heard were phenomenal. And I know some of our partners were at each of those. You'll be able to find us exhibiting also at the New Jersey Planning and Redevelopment Conference, which is next week. Amanda Archer will be speaking at the Cape May Point Climate Summit, which is being held by the Cape May Point Arts and Science Center. We are grateful, as always, to New Jersey Association of Floodplain Managers for giving us a table at their conference, which will be in October. And we're excited to again be at the League of Municipalities Conference. We've reserved our exhibiting table, all of our very own, and we've applied for a session. That's where we hope to really be able to highlight our work and the value to municipalities. And if you haven't seen yet, I think Amanda's going to drop in the chat for you all. We are the cover article of the League of Municipalities monthly magazine, which is really super exciting. So as you guys may or may not know, a focus of ours is always to be able to reach municipalities and provide technical assistance and help them meet their goals in whatever way we possibly can. So We're very excited to have been making these new connections with the League of Municipalities. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Amanda.
Thanks, Laura. Super excited that we made the cover. That was unexpected, but awesome. All right, so I'm going to run through really quick. Back in April, we put out a call for the full partnership to reply to a survey. And we wanted to collect feedback from the full collaborative on how we're doing as an organization and where you see us going with our work. And we plan to use this information to help build out a strategic plan for the NJCRC moving forward. And so we had 56 responses, and I think the category of sectors really reflects our partnership in the responses to the survey. And if you want to go to the next slide. So we asked partners what they hope to gain from being a member, and the top 4 that came up was the ability to collaborate towards a common goal, access to a breadth of expertise, information, and research, form relationships with respected partners, and also that networking opportunities that we're trying to incorporate moving forward into our full partnership meetings. Next. So is the NJCRC fulfilling your expectations? A vast majority of people agreed. However, we also asked, if you do not agree, how can we improve? And so what kept coming up frequently is this networking and discussion opportunities on specific topics, which would help us lead to more technical workshops or networking events. More opportunities for policy and review. Policy review and comments, and we're looking to feed that through our policy work group. More in-person networking opportunities. We missed the ball this time, but hopefully we can have some more in-person networking opportunities in the future, and more frequent announcements of funding opportunities. Next slide. So what do we prioritize as NJCRC partners? So this shows you what we prioritize, the top 10 that came up out of the survey. And that doesn't mean that if it's not listed here, it's not a priority for the NJCRC. We just want to see what partners prioritize. And I'm not going to read through all of these, but you can see protection and restoration of natural systems and research, flood reduction are in top 3. And also some environmental justice, community health, public access, education outreach, and policy as well. Next slide. Are your coastal resilience objectives reflected in the current makeup of work groups? So as we move forward, we put out a call if someone sees a need to develop a work group around a specific topic, we wanted to scope that out. A lot of folks answered yes, but we did have some topics that came up that we are reviewing, and we'll reach out to individual members who volunteered or wanted to potentially start a work group after we meet with our board of directors on Monday. Next slide. What groups should we prioritize over the next few years in our outreach, promotion, or events and technical assistance? Again, this isn't a surprise to us. Municipalities rose to the top, state and county agencies, policymakers, and community members. And so we'll take this into consideration for our outreach and promotion moving forward. Next slide. We asked you all what the primary hurdles to achieving coastal resilience is for your organizations. These are the top 4 that we saw: the funding and capacity, the federal uncertainty and difficulty to plan or create objectives, local opposition, local engagement, and also regulatory hurdles and timeframes to complete work. So we'll also be taking a look at these and ways that the NJCRC can help with these hurdles. Next slide. For building capacity through professional development opportunities, 54% said the NJCRC does this well, as well as access to information on alternative and additional funding sources. And we continue to improve and develop those. Next slide. what does NJCRC do well but could also support more? So these are the top 3 that came up that we could focus on into the future. So building local resilience partnerships. We got a lot on kind of helping our municipal work group build a network, supporting and planning implementation of resilience projects. You'll hear a little bit more about how we're putting efforts into this for our one of our work group reorganizations who's going to be focusing on some implementation of projects, and then also building regional resilience partnerships as well. I think that's all I have. I wanted it to be short and sweet, but like I said, we're using this survey and all your responses to help build out a strategic plan and discuss this more with leadership and the board of directors. So thank you all for participating in that survey. And I'll pass it back to Martha.
Thank you. And can you share the slide for me? So as over the basically last 6 months, we've been privileged to be able to aid and assist both the Beneficial Use Learning Network and also the CHARM practitioner group. So what we worked towards was clarity. And Amanda, can you go to the next slide, please? Was to kind of reframe how all this fit together to make it more clear to the membership, not only for interest on various work groups, but also kind of who's doing what where here in New Jersey. So this slide will be available up on our site, what do you call it, where we keep all of our documents and that kind of thing. But, you know, really just presenting this to you as a whole so that you will have an understanding of kind of how all this is fitting together and where the focus areas are. So Terry Doss, Liz Semple, and myself are kind of overseeing the entire coastal ecological restoration work group. There'll still be the applied science group that was formerly referred to as the Ecological and Restoration Science Work Group. Then there's BERT, which is the Beneficial Use Learning Network, and Task Force kind of falls under that, which Adriana and Quinn and Daniel McAuliffe are leading. And then the CHARM group, which is Daniel McAuliffe and then also Adriana. So just wanted to give you all a overview of how this group is continuing to grow and continuing to refine the work that it's doing. Good.
I just wanted to give an opportunity real quick if there's any prior work group leads that are on that wanted to share a small update on what they've been working on prior to the reorganization and how they're going to make the transition.
Hey, Amanda. I just have a statement from Adriana, who couldn't join today. So for those who were part of the Beneficial Use Learning Network, she's going to be reaching out to you shortly with an email just to let you know about the transition and kind of what that's going to look like as far as participation in the task force. The BERT group, the BERT initiative, we're still trying to sort out the structure and what engagement opportunities look like for the larger CRC membership. But there's going to be more information on how to participate and engage in that coming shortly. And then, yeah, keep an eye out for an email from Adriana about this transition. Thanks.
Amanda, this is Meredith. Same thing for me and the previous ecological restoration work group. I'll also be sending out just an email to the work group, just kind of re-engage and see, you know, people still interested, are they not, and just, you know, follow-ups to what the reorg means and how we're going to be moving forward. Sorry.
And a quick update from me for the CHARM work group. We're moving ahead as planned. We love being a part of the coastal ecological restoration work group. We are continuing our learning webinar series. We had folks from Chesapeake Bay come and talk about some of the guidance that they are giving with living shorelines. So really trying to get that cross-state, cross-watershed information to the NJCRC. Our next webinar will be in July, and it will be folks from my office at U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service talking about endangered species. If you are putting in permits and you're curious about how that process works from the federal side of things, you can register for that. I'll put my email in the chat and I can add you to that email or the charm work group. And then just to let you guys know some webinars that are happening this fall. We're going to have Joe Smith come talk to us about his award-winning work at Edwin B. Forsyth using compost materials to build up marshes. We're going to have some updates from the Beneficial Use Learning Network. We're going to kind of take some of the summary documents that Adriana created from that work group and have like a technical session on that. We're also working on our fact sheets. We just had a field trip, which I think you might hear from the field trip leads about. Yeah, so lots to come. If you're interested in joining Charm and you're not already on the listserv, just email me and we can get you involved. Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
All right, I guess I'm up. You guys asked for more networking events, so we're bringing them. We're excited to be holding another technical workshop. This one will be focused on coastal ecological restoration, and it'll be held Thursday, September 11th at the Rutgers Eco Complex in Bordentown. It'll run from 9 a.m. to 4 a.m. with an hour-long networking event right afterwards from 4 to 5. And we'll be sending out a call for abstracts next week, but speaking posts will be limited, so get ready and get creative. We're looking to hear about exciting, innovative coastal ecological restoration practices to share with our NJCRC community. We already have 3 speakers confirmed. We have Gina Worth from SCAPE, who'll present on adaptive landscapes and designing with sediment. Danielle Bissett from EPIC will talk about how to move through and improve the ecological restoration permitting process. And Chris Strev from Biohabitats will be talking about innovative coastal restoration practices being used in areas outside of New Jersey. We'll also hear from members of our coastal ecological restoration work group, including our CHARM work group and applied science work group. So we'll all be there. Hope to see you there. Registration will be limited and the fees will be low. And those fees will also include food through the day as well as the networking event. The call for abstracts, as I mentioned, is coming out next week along with the draft agenda and more information. But if you have any specific questions, always feel free to reach out to me specifically. If you're interested in sponsoring this event, let me know. We already are working out details with 2 sponsors and we have room for 1 or 2 more organizations. But again, feel free to reach out to me with any questions. And then moving to our 2026 events. As most of you remember, we had a really amazing joint NJDEP NJCRC conference back in March 2024. So we're going to do it all again in March 2026, but it'll be even bigger and better. The NJDEP NJCRC Coastal and Climate Resilience Conference will be held from Monday, March 9th through Wednesday, March 11th at the Seaview Resort in Galloway. The conference committee met last month to move the planning forward. And if you want to be a part of that planning process, again, reach out to me, even if you have before. I know that people have reached out and those emails are buried somewhere in my stack. So please, if you didn't get the invite to the May meeting and you want to join the June and going forward meetings to plan for the 2026 conference, reach out to me. Also, I'm looking to turn over the lead for the planning work group to someone who's willing to take it on, and I'd be happy to work through the conference planning process with whoever that next person would like to be. It's fun and you get to hang out with a lot of cool people, so you should think about it. For the conference, the focus right now is on lining up our sponsors and our invited speakers. So if you're interested in sponsoring, we want to get you in early. And so that we can get your name out there to everybody and get it all lined up. If you have any invited speaker ideas, do let us know. The call for abstracts will be out in early August and registration will open in October. So get ready. This statewide conference is really unique, and it brings in folks not just from the state, but from around the region and even around the country. But most importantly, it gives us a chance to gather, to learn, commiserate sometimes, and of course, collaborate. So thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate all your work.
Looks like that's me. Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody again. A few updates. I created a web page last week on the CRC website with a final summary document for the NJDOT's new framework for managing sediment in the back bays of New Jersey, along with about a half dozen white papers on related topics. Although these weren't NJCRC products, the work to develop the framework and the white papers involved a lot of our partners. So I think it made sense for us to be a home for it. Currently, we have an op-ed by our co-chair, Liz Semple from TNC, and my boss, Tony McDonald, here at Monmouth University's Urban Coast Institute, which is about the framework and under review by NJ Spotlight News. I'll add a link to that framework page in the chat in a moment. Our newsletter, hopefully most of you received a copy of that a couple of weeks ago, our spring edition, and I can share a link to that too in a minute. It included a Q&A with our board member and longtime Cape May Mayor Ed Mahoney, who is still on the line, I think. And it covered, some things about his life and his love of the coast and the benefits of partnership with the New Jersey Coastal Resilience Collaborative. So we hope to make that kind of a running feature in newsletters going forward. And the issue also had some links to multiple coffee chat webinars, among other content. We're targeting our next one to go out in the late summer timeframe. So if anyone has any ideas for content for that they'd like to see included, feel free to reach out. And also, if you need me to add you to our distribution list. And finally, we've been making a lot of updates to our website lately, and that reminded me to just ask everybody here to take a second and make sure that your logo is listed on the partners page. We've got about 100 organizations listed on there now, but some are in a text list of partners that we didn't have logos on file for. I think probably some of them are from the first wave of membership from years ago, and it might have just fallen through the cracks, but we'd love to certainly get those up and any others that we might be missing, and they'll all link back to your websites, which is nice. And I'll stop there.
All right, I'm up. Hey, this is Mike Galvin with JMT. I'm the field site visit work group chair. And Amanda, I think you can just jump right into the slides. You told me 3 minutes or I'm going to get yelled at, so I'm going to be fast. All right, so we held our second successful field trip on April 17th. The site had a cap with how many attendees Ocean County felt comfortable hosting, so we sent the invite out to the work group chairs who invited their work group members. So just another plug to join a work group. But this trip was hosted by obviously the NJCRC, but also Ocean County, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and Ducks Unlimited. For those of you that don't know about Caddis Island, it's a pretty cool place. It's a 530-acre park. I'm not just gonna read off the slides here, but there's a couple different restorations that are going on over the next few years at Caddis Island. And so the day started off with, Amanda, you can go to the next slide. The day started off with a little classroom presentation to the 25 to 30 folks that were in attendance. You can see Ocean County giving a little bit of the site background, and then Ducks Unlimited and U.S. Fish and Wildlife presented as well. You can go to the next slide, Amanda. After the classroom experience, we went out and actually toured where the Living Shoreline will be, and we looked at a couple of the interior marshes where there's a lot of data collection going on, but there'll also be some interior marsh restoration efforts. The goal of the work group that I'm in is not so much just to do show and tell, it's to kind of foster conversations out at these sites with the different stakeholders that exist within the NJCRC and at, you know, so this one was good because we were able to get, you know, there's some regulatory folks, the project owners, designers, and it's always healthy to have some of the conversations about competing resources and, you know, permit requirements versus what you need to do in design, actually looking at the site in real life. Next slide. And so we started off looking at, there's a little observation deck right outside of the nature center, looking at one of the interior marshes. Next slide. Then we headed out to Page's Point. So we walked down the shoreline, and then this is actually one of the areas that has one of the largest amounts of degradation. If you go to the next slide. And so this is the site of, or one of the sites of the Living Shoreline project. And then last picture here is going to be just another stopping point on our tour here of another interior marsh where U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Ducks Unlimited are currently collecting a lot of data and looking to move forward with restoration in the coming years. So we hope that this was the before field trip, and then in the coming years we can get back out there and kind of track progress and see how the restoration projects look and also respond. So Danielle, I think I left you about 30 seconds to jump in if you were interested, but it was a really cool day. Weather was great, and I'm excited to get moving on the next field trip opportunity.
Just thanks for coming out. We went out there this week. We put up some ARUs, and we have a Rutgers student that's going to look at some of our bird data before and after restoration too. So just lots of fun stuff at Caddis. And if you're in the area, I just recommend going in the morning, walking those trails, checking out the Cooper Environmental Center. It's a pretty special place. Thank you all for coming out.
Hi, everybody. It's Angela. I wasn't sure if I was doing the update or Alyssa, so I know we're tight on time, so I'll just run through really quick. The municipal work group. We didn't reorganize, but we have been being very introspective because we know our value and we know the municipal work group is truly, you know, so important, and we saw the survey results and that kind of just reiterates it. So in refining our 18-month work plan, you know, we worked with Amanda and we, you know, submitted, you know, some edits to what we had already done. So it's, you know, it's sort of started in January 25th, our 18-month kind of vision. So you kind of have to refine things that you think you might do. And just kind of, you know, fun fact, being the municipal work group, how minimally represented we are by municipalities proper. Right. And we seem very popular because I'm always getting emails and Alyssa's like, oh, this person wants to be in the municipal work group. That is excellent. And we do love that. But we felt like we needed to be a little bit more strategic in what that looks like. You know, we originally were thinking where we would do a more of a questionnaire, like what municipality do you represent? But we had to kind of shift that a little bit to be a little more project focused. Because, you know, for us to go out to each town, it really is an impossibility. A lot of the breadth of what has to happen through this group is really not, we're not set up for what we really need. So in pulling back in the goals and objectives for 18 months, it's understanding who's interested, right? It's understanding who's coming to the table for the municipal work group, and not necessarily if they're representing a municipality, but do they have a project in the municipality? Is the municipality aware of the project that's happening in the town? So if we have like consultants, engineers, or whomever, where are they working? Right? If they're not representing a municipality, you know, kind of working into that, building that network backwards through projects. So we have a questionnaire We can send that out. I know we refined it a little bit. But really kind of this knowledge exchange, right? We're trying to, understand who's experiencing what, because we don't really have a point person in every town that is doing this stuff. We are on the range. We've kind of got the top of the rung here of people that are municipal that are doing the work. And we want to be able to be the resource. We want to promote the resources that are available through the CRC to where people are, in need. And, so that is very important to us. So really, we kind of went backwards into ourselves, like I said, and really, we just want to make sure we have regular recurring meetings. That's sort of a task, right? It seems pretty easy, but it's more complicated than you think, right? And then what are some of those deliverables from within those kind of tasks? So being very task oriented for, again, this 18-month plan, because there were some things where like, that's not 2025, that's later in 2026. Regular meetings, very important, and topical. And what are they, what is the agenda? What are we focusing at on there? And the productivity of those meetings and the membership, like kind of like Alyssa says, like what's everybody bringing to the table so we can make sure that we are like as meaty as we could possibly be as a municipal work group. What are the tasks? What are the expertise that helps build our resource base and the membership? The League of Municipalities, I think we saw on a few slides ahead of that, worked together to get that session there, worked together to get that article in the paper, and of course, Alyssa on the front page. That is awesome. So the stars seem to be aligning for us to be able to have a really good presence there at the League to do a session and hopefully, to grow there. But we also want to look at other networks, county networks. We have our New Jersey Bay Island initiative. Where do we fit in together with that, especially since Virginia retiring and that uplift of leadership really needed in the Bay Island team, someone like Virginia, but also that federal larger view, larger landholder and maintaining we have a role in that as a CRC and how we can make sure that the Bay Islands stay in the forefront in all of the ways that we had it going. 5 years, we just celebrated 5 years for the Bay Island group. But looking at other networks that are existing and how we can build upon each other and grow there. But we've come up with some topic ideas that we want to talk about at upcoming meetings. So we'll take a little bit of a survey, we'll reevaluate who's coming to the table. And, we think we have some really good topic ideas to move forward for the next 18 months. We definitely know how important the municipal work group is to the CRC. And we are happy to understand now how the other work groups have structured and refocused, because we felt that is the way the municipal work group will grow, by everything that's coming from our shared, team here with the other work group leads. So we are excited for the next 18 months. And Alyssa, if you want to add anything, I know we're tight on time.
I really just wanted to thank Amanda for all of her help with just setting up the survey and helping us organize our work plan and separate what our tasks and our goals really are going forward. I'm excited to actually organize the meeting and have meetings that have a purpose or an intent or a presentation. And then I figure every other meeting we can have a group talk about what's going on.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for all of our work groups giving us updates on all the great work they've been doing. We're going to move into our partner updates because we know everybody else is doing great work as well outside of what you're doing in the NJCRC. But first, we're going to pass it to Nick to give a more true update of what's happening at the DEP right now.
All right, thank you again. I promise I will actually be quick this time. Real rules update is we are continuing to move toward adoption. The Administrative Procedures Act timeline requires that we file that, I believe, late July, first week of August. you would expect to see a rule of that size published in the New Jersey Register probably a month later in September. I will also be posting on in the chat here a website to check out again the Real Rules website, and there are some new short videos around some of the myths and facts of those regs. Second item, we are in day 4 of New Jersey's Extreme Heat Awareness Week. I will again post a link for you to check out Heat Hub NJ. This week, the state has been sharing information on how to ensure that you and your communities are safe from increasing in extreme heat. All of that information is posted on the link I'm going to provide, Heat Hub NJ, which you should also utilize as the location for New Jersey information around extreme heat. And finally, I will note, as Senator Kim's office mentioned earlier, the president's budget proposal is out. We are still, it is not too late to sign on to a letter of support for coastal management programs. I believe that the request preferred deadline is to sign on to that letter is tomorrow. I will provide the link in the chat. They are certainly anyone can sign on to that letter of support, but I think in particular they are looking for local governments and private sector signees, but all are welcome. And the last thing that I will share in the chat, not here, a handful of relevant DEP press releases over the last 6 months in case you've missed it. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nick. We're going to move over to Hannah from Rebuild by Design. Hannah, I don't know if you got my email about slides.
Yes, thank you. I just sent a request to share. I can just do a quick overview and then move with it. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Katz, and I'm Rebuild by Design's New Jersey Program Manager. Today, I wanted to show you a brief overview of what we have available for you to use on our website, and then an upcoming opportunity to learn more about our new research. So if you don't know us, Rebuild by Design is an organization that is nationwide, but we have a state-by-state presence in which we help states and localities and municipalities address their disaster questions and planning issues. And on our website, we've created if you love maps, you're going to love this. We have an Atlas of Disaster you can find here, and the name is very fitting. It essentially bridges together the connection between economic losses and risk and environmental risk. And so we have a county by county PDF. It's still loading on my screen, but you can access this on the website. And there is a large overview of New Jersey and its data. And we just released new flooding data for our report called Flood Risk Equals Financial Risk. So this is all accessible on our website, and you can use this for your own research if you'd like. And we have county by county fact sheets that we've created as well that you can find as a PDF too. And your county will be on here with data essentially grouping different populations. Sorry, it's not really loading too well, but I will just drop it into the chat. But essentially what we're doing is classifying different populations as by their risk level, and then creating GIS visualization. So like I said, if you're like me and you love maps, you're going to love this new research. We have an event coming up on the 12th at 6 p.m. It's going to be an evening dinner time chat with New Jersey Organizing Project, Amanda Deveka-Rainier, and our researchers at Rebuild by Design to go over our new GIS data and the findings that we've found through our research. I'm dropping that here in the chat. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. And I hope you all get a chance to enjoy this lovely day today.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And now we're going to pass it over to Steve Simone from Office of Planning Advocacy.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to give you an update of what we're up to. Right now, the primary focus of the Office of Planning Advocacy is the adoption of the new State Development and Redevelopment Plan, or SDRP. And the process of adopting the new plan, for those of you who don't know, is known as cross-acceptance. And that began when the preliminary draft of the SDRP was released by the State Planning Commission back in December. The key participants in cross-acceptance are our office and the counties. And the counties are required to do a number of things, including co-hosting public hearings, doing outreach, reporting on the feedback they receive from their towns on the preliminary plan, and negotiating with the state on the preparation of a final plan. To date, we've made a lot of progress. We've finished co-hosting 22 public hearings on the preliminary plan throughout the state, one in each county and one at the Highlands Council. The last one was held in April. And these were all well attended. We had a final head count of 517 attendees in total, and summary notes of all these meetings are posted on our website. We've also received over 200 comments through our dedicated email address and online portal on the preliminary plan. And very significantly, the county cross-acceptance responses, the formal packets that the counties prepare, were due to us by last week, and these summarize the municipal and county consistency with the preliminary plan. They also propose changes to be incorporated into the final plan. We've asked any county that was running late to at least get us a draft by last Friday, and I think we've received about 19 or 20 drafts or finals so far. So we've got a really good response, just a few that are running late. And all of the cross-acceptance responses are being posted to our website when we get the final versions in. The next step in cross-acceptance will be the negotiation phase, when county and state representatives meet to iron out points of disagreement and propose changes to the preliminary plan. We've asked the counties to provide contact information on their negotiating committee designees, who will be actually in the room talking with us. And we're in the process of scheduling 3 separate meetings with each county's negotiating committee. That one will be a prep meeting, which is an initial kickoff discussion, which will be scheduled in June, and 2 subsequent negotiation sessions, which are being scheduled in July. And these are more formal and they have to be publicly noticed. There's a couple other requirements in there as well. Concurrently, the impact assessment and infrastructure needs assessment are progressing. And we're having regular meetings with the teams from Rowan and Rutgers who are preparing them. The impact assessment broadly looks at the projected influence of the new plan on economic, environmental, and other social trends. And the infrastructure needs assessment considers capital investment needs associated with the new plan. And both of these will be released around the same time that the draft final SDRP will be released. At this point, we hope to have the draft final SDRP out sometime in September, and we will then be holding a series of 6 public meetings on the draft final plan, probably in mid-October. And we will be continuing to solicit public comments on the plan all the way into November. So you can still comment on the plan if you haven't already. We'd love to have your feedback. The timeline is tight, but we're still on track for final adoption in December. And just for everyone's sake, I'll go ahead and drop the link to the survey in the chat. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none, I'll hand it off to the next person on the list.
Thank you, Steve. I'm just going to send out a reminder to you as well as everybody else. If you have things that you want to share in the interim between now and our next full partnership meeting, there's always the newsletter that Carl mentioned. You can post on Basecamp. If you need a reminder of how to post on Basecamp, just reach out to us. We're happy to help you do that. But there's multiple ways to share information in between our meetings if ever anybody's interested. All right, Eliza?
Hi, do you have my slides by any chance?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, amazing. Hi, everyone. I'm Eliza Light. I'm a marine biologist for eConcrete. I just wanted to share 2 quick updates about 2 projects. First is Shark River. It was an HOA that was dealing with highly eroded shoreline that, historically was filled with dredged material. They wanted nature inclusive infrastructure, so we placed marine mattresses and we finished. Oh, you can go back.
Sorry, it's moving on its own. I apologize.
No worries, no worries. We finished 3 years of monitoring of this project. You can go to the next one. And we had great recruitment of many different species, over 24 species over the course of the monitoring period. And we're looking forward to doing more projects like this with dredged material and beneficial use. And then you can go to the next one. And then upcoming in the tri-state area, the construction for the living breakwaters was completed. That was actually rebuilt by design. So thank you, Hannah. And we're currently in the process of preparing 4,500 oyster discs that will then go out on the breakwaters. So these are going to be seeded with the Billion Oyster Project, and they'll be going out in 2026, which is a really cool initiative to increase oyster habitat and also increase resilience. So super excited about the project. And that's it for me. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Next up is Doug Janik from Sovereign Consulting.
Thanks, Laura. Do you have our slides?
Yes.
Fantastic. I'll keep this pretty quick. Sovereign Consulting is an environmental consulting firm with the Natural Resources Program. I'm the program manager and the senior restoration ecologist. We're 16 offices in 12 states, about 150 employees, revenue in the $30 million a year. And we're a minority-owned business headquartered out of Robbinsville, New Jersey. Next. So we're not a huge company, but we do a whole lot of different things when it comes to natural resources. We do a lot of restoration. We also do a lot of monitoring and that type of work, but we do everything from studying a project through permitting, implementation, community outreach, grant acquisition. We do the whole gamut, cradle to grave. And also we work on a very wide range of habitats, from everything from a Piedmont forest land or master planning all the way down to basically a reef on the ocean. We do the whole cross section. Next one. And we also have a very diverse group of clients and partners we work with. And that could be everything from grassroots efforts to trainings to construction projects, design projects, you name it. So we have federal, state, local municipalities, estuary programs, national and regional non-for-profits, universities, other consulting firms, HOAs, and private homeowners. So we work for just about everybody who needs us. And that's really all I need to say. The takeaway is that we do a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and we're a very flexible, nimble company because we're not that big.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. Great to have you guys join the collaborative. I'm going to pass it over to Kelly from Climate Central.
Hey all, I think we have 2 slides as well. So I'm here representing Climate Central. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based in Princeton, New Jersey. We research and provide free communication tools about climate change science, impacts, and solutions. So I'm here today to share 2 new web tools that might be helpful in your work. The first is Coastal Risk Finder. This tool allows you to explore local sea level rise and coastal flood projections, including those from NOAA and the IPCC, for a bunch of different scenarios, including different flood levels. It also shows you the impact on different populations, land, and homes, and you can do that for the entire state or zoom into a specific county, municipality, congressional district, or state senate district. And you can download graphics and data for use in your work. We've also created several user guides that can help you find the features of the tool that are the most useful for different kinds of work. You can go to the next slide. I'm also going to share all of these links in the chat. The second tool is our Flood Vision Risk Viewer. So Flood Vision is basically our technology that's like Google Street View for flooding. We have a car with a bunch of sensors on it, and we can drive past any area and collect a bunch of visual like data and spatial data, and then we can use that AI and peer-reviewed sea level rise and coastal flood models to create photorealistic images of future flooding. So the Risk Viewer allows you to explore some of the images that we've captured already. And I invite you to reach out if you're looking for images of a specific location. We've driven at least through all the shore towns. So if you're interested in any specific ones, reach out and we can see what we can dig up. And also feel free to reach out for a demo of either of these tools just for yourself or for your organization. I included my email for that purpose. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And we have one more, last but not least. Chris, you want to talk about Black and Beach's work?
Excellent. Yeah, I think I've got a slide that was shared. I'm not sure if you have it. There we go. So just kind of a little bit of a rundown of some of the work that we've been doing recently. We just wrapped up working on the Essex County Hazard Mitigation Plan, which we did a really fast track hazard mitigation plan there, about 5 months from kickoff to approval, but includes a lot of different mitigation strategies for natural hazards with obviously a big focus on coastal flooding in that area. Staying in that kind of section of the state, we're doing a lot of stormwater assistance up in Hoboken right now, including the development of their watershed improvement plan, which is a big deal with a lot of the Tier A communities in the state, which a lot of the communities in the state are Tier A. It's a new requirement from NJDAP. So we are working to provide some assistance there. Doing a lot more FEMA mitigation grant support for several communities in New Jersey, including a lot more home elevations to reduce flood risk. Outside of the state, but it's just a really cool project I wanted to highlight down in Georgia, just right behind Tybee Island. Black and Beach is creating a 6-mile living shoreline project with marsh infill. And that's going to actually protect the only evacuation route for the roughly 3,000 plus people that live on Tybee Island. So it's kind of that nice combination of ecological and public safety resilience that we're working on down there. And we've got some other sediment management related coastal resilience work that is kind of in the wings. Can't really talk too much about it yet, but hopefully next meeting we'll be able to chat more about it. And then lastly, just wanted to kind of circle back to stormwater. Last month, we hosted an MS4 webinar for New Jersey communities, talking about some of the new NJDEP requirements and ways that we feel like are kind of best management practices to help meet those, including how to work on developing watershed improvement plans. Again, that new piece from NJDEP for MS4 Tier A communities. Also talked about green infrastructure opportunities and potential funding opportunities that are out there for stormwater upgrades. Definitely a lot of that focused in coastal areas. So if anybody's interested in a recording of that webinar, feel free to reach out. We are more than willing to share. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chris. And with that, I'm going to pass it either to Martha or Amanda. I'm not sure who's wrapping up and talking about our next steps.
Yeah. I just wanted to acknowledge that Jason put in the chat before we go into our virtual networking session. NJ Planning Office is accepting nominations for planning awards, and that link is in the chat. If you want to hit the next slide, Laura. So we're hoping that you can all stay on with us until at least 4 o'clock. We put some time and effort into developing a virtual networking session. And so as I'm in the process of creating breakout groups, just a reminder, breakout group 1 is going to be some fun coastal resilience trivia where you get to know partners. Breakout group 2 is about sponsorship opportunities with Terry Dawson, Nick Brown. And then breakout group 3, if you've heard all the updates from the work groups today and you're interested in learning more and how to get involved, or even discussing some new ideas, you can go into that breakout room with Laura and Tom. So thank you all for joining, and I'm going to create these breakout groups now and leave that slide up for people to navigate
Just remind people can move between rooms if you want to talk about work groups for a little bit or sponsorships for a little bit, but then want to do some trivia. meet some partners, feel free to move about groups. Just take note of what those 3 groups are, because I'm not exactly sure if you'll be able to see once you try to move between them. And then Martha, I don't know if you want to say anything last minute.
I don't think so. I thank everyone for participating today, and we look forward to collaborating into the future. So with that, let's go on into the networking opportunity.
And thank you for being kind with these virtual networking. We're working, doing our best to come up with creative ideas.
All right, let's see. Are people finding them able to get into a room? Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna go into room 1.
How do I move to a room?
Oh no, I don't even see myself.
Oh, I think we just joined whichever room we're supposed to go to. We're supposed to go to room 3, Tom.
Oh, I see. Okay, I guess we
Scroll
better get
down.
there. Oh, there's a bunch of people in there.
Here I go. Stop and join.
I was just with Tom and Laura in the other room. We both hit room 3 at the same time. I think they're stuck in a time warp. Hmm. All right. Down to final 2. I think we might have to call it. All right. Come on. I'm gonna see if anyone's back in the other other hate to leave you in the room alone, but I'm not sure what everyone's doing. Says there's 3 people.